everybody, and welcome back to Men's Day Out, India's only portal that covers gender stories, but from the other side. Joining with me today is a father who is based out of the US, who has been alienated from his son, a minor son, since almost a decade now. While the matter is subjudice, we are not really going to talk who is right, who is wrong in this whole issue, but we are going to look at the loopholes in the whole process, where a non-custodial parent finds it extremely difficult to get in touch with his or her child who has been abducted and brought back to India. For the sake of anonymity, I would like to call him Sham. Welcome, Sham, and thank you for joining us on Men's Day Out. Thank you, Arnas. Glad to be here. So, Sham, just give us a little brief of, how did you get married? You are an Indian. When did you move to US? And how did the marriage take place? Give us a little brief about it. Sure. I'm from India originally, and I got to know my wife even before marriage in India itself, in one of the big cities in India. And about 2 decades, roughly 2 decades earlier, I moved to the US for job. 1 year later, my wife, who we were not even engaged at that time, also moved to US on her own visa for her career prospects. And then 2 years since we both moved to the US, we went back to India to get married as per Hindu marriage rites. And that is how our marriage happened. It happened in India, but we were all in the US at the time. And then we both settled in the same city and continued our life in that city in US until our child was born, roughly 10 years after marriage. And then one fine day, my wife said she wanted to spend some time in India on vacation with her parents. And since my child was just 2.5 years old at the time, I relented and let her travel. And then after that, she did not come back. So that is a short summary of my story. Right. So you told me, Sham, that you conceived your child after nearly a decade of marriage. Now, were there frictions within the marriage? I mean, did you anticipate that, this was coming, that your wife would go to India with the child and not return? Did you have any heads up, or it was a very normal, travel plan where you thought she would spend her holiday and come back? Yeah, so like any marriage, right? There were differences over the long stretch of marriage. There's regular wear and tear. None of that seemed to be a concern to me at the time. I just brushed it aside as something that every family goes through. And we did have a good amount of good times, traveling around places, visiting and enjoying what we both commonly enjoy and that kind of stuff. So you'd think that, all these things would kind of cover up for the differences you have, but unfortunately it didn't turn out that way. That is what came as a shock to me when my wife said that she's not going to return. I could not imagine that a mother could do something as extreme to her own son, and it took a while for me to come to that realization that no matter how strong you think your convictions are, there are people who will take some extreme measures without even bothering about the consequences on other people, especially even an innocent child. So that was a shocking revelation for me. Right. So in a way, you spent nearly, if I would say 12 years together. And one fine day, she just left with the child, not to return. Yes, that's right. Right. Then you told me that obviously because the child was born in the US, the child was a US citizen, by that virtue. What are the challenges that you faced, because now the whole matter boils down to the jurisdiction. Which jurisdiction are you going to go and fight this case? Did you immediately go to the court, or did you maybe, spend some time trying to reconcile? How did you go about it?
Yeah, so that's a very important question. See, I was born in India, so was my wife. But we went to the US and got naturalized as green card holders. And then subsequently, our child was born in the US, so he was a US citizen by birth. Roughly 1 year after our child was born, we both surrendered our Indian citizenship and got naturalized as US citizens. So at the time of abduction of my child to India, we were all US citizens. So for all practical purposes or logistical purposes, you would think that it is very black and white, that every whole family is US citizens. Then the US courts have the sole jurisdiction over the whole matter, divorce or custody, at least the custody part, right? Given the child was born there. So unfortunately, that is not how it is as far as laws in India are concerned. That at least under Hindu Marriage Act, they try to grab everything that has been blessed by Hindu rights as something that is worthy of their jurisdiction. So Indian courts, even though there is a domicile aspect to the criteria for taking jurisdiction, they will disregard all the basic things that have happened in the life, and instead they'll just take our blanket jurisdiction. About me trying to reconcile, I did because I knew that going through a judicial process in India is itself a punishment of sorts, right? It's long, drawn, and stressful, and all sorts of unnecessary allegations will happen, which will only make the matters worse. Add to it the lawyers and the orders from the court themselves are very adversarial in nature, and in fact incite the couples to do extreme things, right? So with that in mind, I did try to reconcile with my wife. 1 year after the abduction, I traveled to India, and I tried to convince and talk to my wife to set aside the marital part of it, at least come to some agreement on how to take care of our child in a manner that does not alienate from either of us, and efforts in that love from both parents. But that did not succeed. When that did not succeed, I initiated custody proceedings in the US. I tried to serve the summons to my wife in India through what is called as a Hague process followed internationally. And she refused to accept any of the summons even after 4 attempts by the government of India. So that's how things started to go bad from that point.
Right. And after that, you said that there was a kind of rebound from her. So until now, she had only left and taken away the child. But the minute you filed this case, the custody case in the US, in the country of, where the child was born, she in a way filed certain cases against you in the Indian court, which were criminal in nature.
In India, as soon as the 4 attempts that I mentioned about the service of summons were finished, coincidentally, I also planned to visit India to see my son. And I let her know of my plans, that I am flying on such and such date. I'd like to meet with my son in a public place. She took that opportunity to file a countersuit of both marriage and child custody under Hindu Marriage Act. She also included Protection of Women Against Domestic Violence Act as well. And she used a few sections from both of those to ask for sole custody of the child, as well as divorce on the grounds of abuse. Along with that, as I was mid-flight, she also requested the court for restraining me from approaching anywhere near my son. And the court in India granted that without even giving me a chance to contest the veracity of those claims. So that was very unfortunate. And to this day, my son and I suffer that, suffer the consequences of the act she did.
Right. And you told me she's working. She is more educated than what you are. Yet she has put a claim of maintenance for herself as well as the son.
She is currently working in India in one of the major cities. So she is drawing a salary. I don't know the details of it. It's never sent to me. And yet, okay, let me add one more thing, that we both jointly own a house in the US, okay? And in the state that I live in, it is called a community property state, which means that both the spouses are equally entitled to a equal share of the property. Yet, in her pleadings in the Indian court, she has claimed the opposite. She says that she does not own any property in the US. And she makes claim of such and such salary, which is all of mine, which is all imaginary. There is no proof. And she has actually gotten an interim order of roughly 50,000 each for her and her son.
And this was without even considering the facts. I mean, whether there was domestic abuse or not, that is secondary.
No.
But the interim maintenance was granted purely on the application and the affidavit that she would have submitted to the court.
That's correct. Yes, there is no sort of. It has not even gone through all the evidence, assessment stage yet. But still, the court has ordered that. So there are two reasons I am contesting that. First, in the US, as soon as we kick off a lawsuit between couples, the court will require that each party does not move any of their assets. They cannot move without the consent of the court. You cannot sell a house, you cannot move a huge amount of money and all that stuff, things like that. It will come under scrutiny if you do that. Hence, even if the court in India orders any maintenance, I cannot do anything about it, because I'd be in contempt of court in the US if I move any funds out without the consent of the court. So the process to do it is to get the order and then enforce it in the US, which she has not done in the last 2-3 years since she got the interim order. She's not done that. And the question comes up, why if she's so desperate for maintenance, why is she not doing that? What is stopping her from, as a US citizen, what is stopping her from approaching the court in the US, taking whatever aid that she can get for legal representation, and make that simple claim in the US courts? She's not doing that. So that shows what the intentions are. The intention is not just to extort money, but to use the favorable Indian platform as a way to get around these kind of situations. So if they can squeeze us out of any money, they'll try it. And when they cannot do it, they will use the lengthy process to try to frustrate us, holding the child as a bait, right? So one more thing about the maintenance is that, so I talked about the maintenance towards her, right? Saying that she is having all that property and yet she's asking for maintenance. She is working there yet asking for maintenance. coming to the maintenance for the child, let me say that in the US, a parent abducting a child or keeping a child, taking a child away from the other parent without consent is considered a crime. It's an offense. It's a offense. In the state laws, it is called deprivation of, it's called custodial interference. That is, if a parent tries to keep a child away without the consent or without the court order, allowing him or her to do so, it is considered interference in custody. Okay, so that is a state crime. Taking the child across international borders is a federal crime with up to 3 years in imprisonment. So she has committed 2 crimes altogether, and hence any proceeds that she is trying to get from that crime would be tantamount to demanding ransom. So basically, she's in the court in India. What she's asking for maintenance is considered ransom in the US court, and by awarding that maintenance grant, what the Indian court is actually telling the world is that a parent can now demand ransom.
Shyam, while we were talking offline, you also told me that this problem is not only with the mothers who have been, if I would use the word, running away with their children back to India. There is a certain segment of men, or rather fathers also, who have been, kind of doing the same. Of course, the percentage would matter, like you told me, maybe that is 30% to, compared to what the women are doing. Now, procedurally, what is, the law of the land? How, do you deal with this kind of case? Because as you said, the child is born in US. The couple has been living in the US, throughout their matrimonial life. But just because the marriage has taken place in India, what does the law say? Is there a timeline within which you need to file the case, or how does it really work?
To put some context, divorces have been common everywhere, right? It's been going on for decades in a lot of parts of the world, especially in the Western countries. It's been happening for a much more longer time than in India now, right? So since divorces and separations are common, these kind of conflicts with respect to child is also a consequence of that problem, right? So this is not the child abduction is not a uncommon thing. It is pretty common everywhere, except that the Western countries have seen it for such a long time that they have codified it in law and they have outlawed it. India is yet to reach that stage. So as far as codifying it is concerned, I already mentioned about the state laws that prohibit that kind of a thing and made it a crime, and the international federal statute as well, which makes it crime to do it internationally. So since the movement of people around the world for job or whatever reasons, these kind of international abduction crimes have been on the rise, and Indians being a big part of such settlement outside of India, there are huge pockets of Indians in US, Canada, UK, Australia, and such countries. This is a very common problem with the Indian community. NRIs are especially vulnerable to this. So to deal with this kind of problem of international child abduction, international treaty called Hague Abduction Convention for short is in place since 1980, and roughly 100 countries are signatories to that, including US and including India's neighbors, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and such. In 2017, there was a push, a lot of pressure from countries like US, UK, which had a lot of abductions like this to India, for India to ratify this convention, because that is the standard way it is solved. What this convention requires countries to do is to return the child back to where it was abducted from. Okay, so the basic intention is that a child is abruptly separated from its roots, that is its country, its home, and its parent, taken to another country is a stressful situation for the child. So keeping the child's welfare as a major concern, the child has to be sent back to the where it was abducted from. This is so that there is no extended harm done to the child. And the issue of the custody is then handled in that country from where it was abducted. So the country could decide on the child to remain there, or it can even say that for the best interest, child could be sent back to where it was abducted to also. So there is no such guarantee. But India, under Maneka Gandhi, they rejected it. They claimed that the majority of the parents running away with kids are women, and that such women need to be provided protection in India, disregarding the fact that all these women who are fleeing from some of the most advanced Western countries with the strongest protection for women, any kind of violence, right, including legal aid and all that stuff. So what happened was, even though there are a lot of fathers who were abducting their children to India, similarly, the Bindal Commission that was set up to explore this Hague Abduction Convention ratification conveniently ignored that statistic and painted the whole issue with a single brush, saying that it's only women who are having all this abuse, and hence because of that feminist slant of the commission, everybody is at loss. Our children are at loss now. So that's one of the impacts of such gender biased considerations and gender biased laws, where there is collateral damage to all parts of society.
Right. Shyam, when is the last time you met your son? How long has it been that you have seen him or spoken to him?
The last time I touched my son or physically hugged him was more than 4 years ago. And that was the time when I came down to India to see him during his birthday. And thankfully, I was afforded that opportunity of a visitation for 2 hours a day for 10 days. So that's less than one full day, right? But I was happy to do that. The subsequent year, I came again, and I did the same thing of approaching the court for visitation. The first time that I did that, I succeeded because I offered to surrender my passport, US passport, at the court in India. But the second time, they did not even allow that. And the question asked by the judge was, are you paying any maintenance for your son? If you're not paying, you're not a good father, and I won't allow this visitation. I'm not even in the court premises, not even for 5 minutes. And this decision had been made without looking into the any of the validity of her claims, and without considering the fact that our child is a victim of abduction. So this is how bad the situation is in India.
I mean, it is a strange situation for fathers like you, and especially it becomes more difficult when you're not living in the same city, because even if you're in the same city, perhaps there could be some solutions that could be worked around. Before I end, Shyam, I just want to ask you that there are a lot of men like you who are also suffering, this child alienation. Tomorrow the judge says that, okay, I'm granting a shared custody to both of you as parents. How do you think is the best way that you could work around this situation, especially when you are in US and your wife and child are in India?
practically speaking, it will not work in international kind of arrangements, at least in the litigation phase. Okay, in the litigation phase, there is a lot of friction that is happening, and the whole intention of both parties is to generally get on the nerves of the other. So shared parenting is never gonna fly out, because the person who has the physical custody of the child has all the cards in their hands. So they have no reason to participate in shared parenting without because they don't have anything to give away, right? And they are always they can always get their way out. So unless shared parenting is baked into law with strict contempt actions, if somebody breaks that covenant, there is no point. And given the situation in India regarding perjury and contempt, I know that it's not going to work out. It'll all be on paper, and nothing can be enforced. And even staying in another country, how am I even going to do that? Every time there's a breach, how am I supposed to do? The whole purpose of shared parenting is so that the courts are not burdened with all these so many of these requests for visitation and all those different arrangements, right? The whole purpose is that. But instead, if you are again approaching the courts for contempt every now and then, what's even point of shared parenting? It doesn't make sense.
Effectively, you are saying that even if there is an order which is passed by an Indian court, enforcement would again be a challenge. And if you have to keep coming back to the court for contempt or breach of the or complying of the order, it doesn't make sense at the end of the day.
Correct. Yep.
I'll again ask you this question before I jump. In your situation, what do you think is the best solution now? Because see, you also have to realize that the child is suffering. I mean, either ways, whether he's with her or he's with you. How, would you as a father, would want to ensure that the child doesn't suffer at the end of the day?
Right. First of all, if enforcement was there, shared parenting or any such thing would have been a blessing for us, parents like me and my child also. And this is what we have approached the National Commission on Protection of Child Rights in India as well. We have said that these are all foreign citizens, and they have extreme hardship in even trying to navigate the courts and get anything meaningful going for them. And we told them about all these challenges when it is concerning international abductions. And unfortunately, NCPCR is of no help at all. They are not able to take any suo motu cognizance of any of these issues. They are not able to push for either shared parenting or for India's ratification of Hague. They rejected both of those requests from us, and they instead pushed for mediation between the parties, where we know that mediation is not working at all. We already tried that in the courts. So they try the same failed things again and again. So the way to solve this is for India to stop this, stop accepting such lawsuits when it concerns foreign children. They should just let the foreign countries handle it in their best possible way. And once that is there, then the child, right, can grow up in a country where they were born. They have the rights to that. They have the rights to nationality. They have the right to grow up in the country they were born in. The courts in India are anyway not able to handle the flood of cases. And on top of that, they are taking all these cases with foreign jurisdiction. That is very unfortunate, and it's goes against the policy of putting the children first. There is no best interest of child when the child is in India with one parent and one full extended family cut off from it. So, so even though shared parenting can be a stopgap solution. It cannot be a long-term solution for India as well. Especially for, I'm talking about international abduction cases.
Right. So to sum it up, right now we are saying that there is really no legal remedy for parents like you, the non-custodial parents like you, whose children have been brought back to India by the spouse. And until there is a legal remedy enforced by the government of India, you would be at the mercy of Indian courts.
That's a perfect conclusion. Yes.
I thank you, Shyam, for joining us, and all I can wish you is good luck, and I really hope that you can meet your son very soon and things can be as normal for you and for your family in whichever best way possible that it can. Thank you,
Sure.
and wish you good luck once again.
Thanks so much, Arnas. Thanks for Men's Day Out for this platform.